welcome back to our Quest AI series where we discuss getting started or expanding on AI projects. With me once again, I've got Johan, our chief data scientist, here to answer some recent questions that we've got. Hey, Johan.
Hey, Jace. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. It's, this second quarter of the year is slowly getting momentum. And it feels like all of it just happening this week. So, when I say slow, I'm being sarcastic, obviously.
Yeah, it's been a week, I would say.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah. So actually, I think today we're just going to be focusing on a single topic, right? So we're just answering the question, when to hire, when to partner, and when to outsource AI projects. So I think we've got 8 decision points we're going to be sharing with you, and I will start with the first one. So our reason is skill availability. So it would be hiring for core competencies. I guess I could dive right into this. So we worked in the cruise industry, obviously, before, and originally they had partnered with Capgemini, we all know, a larger IT services consulting company, to bring on, resources for projects. And they ended up coming back to us because we were able to find those niche resources, and it was more aligned with some of the skill sets that they were looking for.
So let me ask you, the Capgemini, because we've worked with them, I was on that project, and the differentiation that I see is that those companies are really good at finding you a lot of people quickly.
Yes.
The depth is not always there.
Yes, I would say they're more focused on quantity over quality.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people use them for that, for their career building. You build your resume, work for one of the, consulting firms, and then move on. So and all of these, just the 8 decision points that we're talking about, when to hire and when to partner and all of that, we're looking from the point of view from a client, right? So these are questions that we typically got, from clients, and they'll ask us, at what point and how do we make these decisions? And I think, the type of partner is also important. We're a small agency. We can't scale to 100 people on a project. That is where those companies will really shine. But you also, you get the other side of it, like you say, the quantity is not necessarily the quality, or that there's a trade-off between those two. Now, when do you want to, when you think about, answering that question, when the skill is available, that's the decision point. Not all companies have necessarily data scientists or so. So that's what they have to decide. We have this project, we have to go get somebody. Very often, those companies will go out and hire as well. The Capgeminis, we do it sometimes. And I think that is where the screening process is also important. I remember working just, using recruiters for myself. I would very often interview the recruiter and ask them, how do you go about screening? What is the process that you go through before I see the candidates? I think that's also very important, to make sure that your project, we're looking at what's the highest success rate that you can get. And that's definitely one of the inputs.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Next one we have is confidentiality. So you want to consider in-house hiring when obviously, there's confidentiality or trade secrets or some reason that you need to make sure that you don't want to necessarily outsource something that could be either secretive, dangerous for the security of the country or whatever.
Right.
So we have a couple of local companies here, but the one that I'm talking about was a local aircraft, jet, and helicopter manufacturer. I think all of their contracts are government contracts. I might be wrong. Don't know their business that well, but they needed resources of security clearance. And that was a challenge because not only do you have to get somebody that's really good at computer vision and AI, but you also had to make sure that they have a background where they at some point went through that process of security. So it took about 2 months to onboard, to screen, onboard, hire, and get people that fit that mold. But it is something that, it is doable. And I think that's a really good decision point for a company to make. If you have trade secrets, that might be another reason. We worked with a client a couple of years ago, and they were building their own internal product, but the goal was to go ahead and sell it at some point. Once they kind of ate their own dog food, made it really good, then they wanted to go make money with it. Mm-hmm. And for them, it made sense to kind of do a prototype, use us to kind of get them to a point. And then they said, okay, this is great. We want to take it internal and we're going to build our IP, patent, all those things, but we really need to do this ourselves. And they hired the resources that we put on the project. They just said, can we just continue those folks and hire them? Like, absolutely. They're not going to, if that's up, it's up to them, obviously. But if that's what they want to do, they can obviously do that. All right, next one.
Yeah, it looks like innovation access. So leveraging partnerships for innovation.
So this one, we had a retail manufacturer that needed expertise in machine learning, computer vision, and then also augmented reality and virtual reality. And we recently finished that project. So to give you a little bit of background on that, we came into the project probably about 2 to 2.5 years after it got started. And a lot of different reasons why it got delayed and why it stretched out that long. So I won't get into those reasons, but as far as a decision point to bring us in, they got to the point where they're like, okay, we've burned a lot of money. We've put a lot of effort into this. We really need to get this over that last final step. So we needed expertise, and not just expertise in computer vision and machine learning. We also needed somebody that understood how to get these projects executed. And I think it was the right decision. Obviously, we were on the project, so that's why I think it was the right decision. But also from a business point of view, if you're thinking like years ago, I used to have to, hire people to help with data center work. And I would hire like a Cisco engineer to come and work on a project for 2 months, and then we're done with that person. And our internal team will take care of it. And I've always kind of kept that in mind because at the time, Cisco engineers were super expensive. I think the bill rate was like $200, $250 an hour. And wow. We couldn't afford to hire somebody like that full-time, but also we didn't need them full-time, right? At the time, I was working for a company that sold pencils, I'm simplifying it now, but their core business was not infrastructure, IT, or anything like that. It was just they needed the servers to run in the data center to do their business. So for them, it made sense to get an expert, have the expert set up the project and everything around what they needed, and then upskill and train their existing staff and then leave. So in that sense, it made, or in that case, it made a lot of sense. With this project that we just recently finished, to give you an idea, we got some resources that had really good expertise for this project. One of them worked at Meta Quest, the Quest 3. I don't know if you're familiar, Jace, with the goggles from Facebook. Yeah, Meta's Facebook.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Apple recently came out with a version as well, the Apple Vision Pro.
I've seen those, yeah.
Yeah, they're super cool. And we were fortunate enough, and this is also to your credit and to the other folks in the team, to their credit, we found a really good resource that had experience working on that project. We had people working with Magic Leap, which is a company here in South Florida. Mm-hmm. So we were able to very quickly get the right resources to work on the project. And we were on the project, I want to say 4.5 months out of the 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were able to get it done. We actually, when we took over, we switched a lot of the things that were in process and we changed a little bit of it. And we were able to, in 4 months, do a lot. So it's just, that to me is cost savings, bringing expertise when needed. And it's a good decision point because that company didn't necessarily need to have full-time AR, VR, Meta Quest developers, This is something where once it's built, you might have revisions and you can do that every quarter, but it's a product that you now own without having to have a whole team that supports it. All right, next one.
Market expansion. So using partnerships to expand market reach.
So we had a large office supply company come to us a couple of years ago. I want to say maybe 6 years ago now. And they were doing a data migration from Teradata, which is an IBM product, into Snowflake. And at the time, I've done plenty of Snowflake projects and more than a lot of other people in this region. And they wanted to partner, like, okay, we need leadership. However, like I told you, we don't have the staffing. We couldn't put 100 people on it. And we also didn't have, low-cost offshore resources to bring in. So what we did is we brought in other partners. We brought in a partner that their core focus was data warehouse development. We also brought in a partner that was an offshore partner to bring the cost down. So between the three of us, we had leadership and strategy, we had execution on the data warehousing front, and then we had the actual work being done by a lower costing resource. And that gave them the ability to very quickly go ahead and build out a product, build out a solution that is something that would have probably taken them a long time if they were to hire internally, build up the knowledge, the skill set. And at the time, just getting a Snowflake developer was super expensive. And they basically leveraged me and a couple of other folks, from Snowflake as well, to go ahead and help with the very specific knowledge needed without having to train a whole team on that technology stack. So a lot of times, if you want to expand your reach and your market, you want to form partnerships with areas that you're not great at, and you don't need to be great at to expand. And other times, it might work out where you're like, all right, we'll hire those people. That's always an option. Is if it pans out and it's successful and it makes money for you, obviously you have the money to go and hire those people. So that kind of gets us to the next decision point, right? Which is cost efficiency.
Cost efficiency, yes, the big one.
So outsourcing to manage cost. So I'm going to tell you about the project we did, which was super fun. I love this, right? This company basically have golf balls that gets printed with a custom logo. So in your case, Jess, when you want to give golf balls to all your friends with your family crest on it, this would be the company that you would use. Now, what they did before is they would have a tray with all these balls, and people would just load it. And, you have different manufacturers, Ping and, oh my goodness, I can't even think. I'm not a golfer, so I don't know all the brands, right? But there's a logo on the ball, and, that's the brand, the type, the manufacturer of the ball. So what they wanted to do is 180 degrees on the other side, they wanted to print the custom logo. Well, they were doing it manually. And when it's season, like when it's Christmas and all those times when people buy a lot of those things, they just couldn't keep up because that manual labor of, turning the balls, there's 72 balls, you have to turn it and get it, it took a long time. So they came to us and they said, okay, listen, we print golf balls, we're not an AI company or anything, but we know what we need. We need computer vision. We need some integration with the mechanics where it drives or it rotates the balls. And we need some expertise to get this executed. The project execution is as important as you can't just put a data scientist on it. They're going to experiment until, they're happy and then they move on. You have to have some kind of process in place. So we came in, we did the project for them, ended up handing off to their internal team at the end of the project what it is to check. We actually created the calibration chart where when they add new cameras, they could calibrate the cameras. So as technology improves, they could calibrate the cameras and use the existing models. But we also trained their team so that their team know, okay, when a new new type of ball comes out and the model is not performing great, which we call typically model drift or data drift, this is what you need to do to tweak and make sure that that model can support the new type of ball. And for instance, yellow balls, green ones, there's different colored balls. The logos might be a little different. So it was a super fun project. And then one interesting tidbit, we had 2 cameras actually on a tray. And if you think about it, when the camera looks 90 degrees down, it's pretty easy where that point is going to be. But think about the balls that's off center a little bit.
I see.
If they're pointing straight to the camera, the place where the logo goes is not 90 degrees with the camera anymore. It's offset. And the further away from the camera, the more that, that angle is going to be. So that's why we created a calibration chart for them, so they could calibrate the cameras and the balls and stuff. There's a lot of expertise that went into that project. That's why, I loved it so much. But at the end of the day, the company, they don't need that expertise full time. It's not something that ongoing they're going to need. It's like you buy a Tesla. You don't get a data scientist with, that knows computer vision with your Tesla. Tesla deals with that. You just drive the car. And that's all the client needed to do is they want to have a system where the balls are automatically rotated and they can print it. So for cost efficiency, I think that was like a great use case.
Yeah. All right. So next one is flexibility. So this is just, deciding to outsource for scaling quickly. Obviously, this is why we formed Quest AI. You're able to give expertise without taking months to hire, ramping up a team, and being able to respond to project demands.
So I love that you said that's why we formed Quest AI, because absolutely, I remember the first time we sat down, we talked about it. This was the problem, right? A lot of companies, myself included, would go to recruiters like you guys, and I would say, okay, listen, this is what I need, and I need it in the next 7 days. And you would tell me, all right, but it's not going to be 7 days. If you want quality, it might take a little longer. And then I would hire somebody and, they might enjoy a project, and then I put them on the next project. They don't like it that much, and you lose them. They move on. Fortunately, that's one thing I managed really well. So we always kept the resources and, keep them excited. But I think that's a problem that companies will always have. If you imagine, you hire somebody that is highly skilled, they want to improve in their career and learn new technologies. Now you put them on this one project, and for the next 5 years, that's all they're going to do. They're just going to work on that project. If you have somebody that's really curious and love technology, they're going to get bored. It's going to happen, and you're going to lose them. I mean, you can pay people a lot of money up to a point, and then the job satisfaction is not there anymore, and they move on. And if you're in an organization where, you have long-term projects, very specific problems that you solve, very often it helps to kind of bring in an expert, help you, kind of create the infrastructure, a reference project, but then hand it off. And when I say hand it off, you can hand it off, just like the previous example with the golf balls. If you upskill the team, the existing team, the DevOps team, your data engineers, your software engineers, they can manage those things. What they might not be able to do is innovate or, maybe even create new versions of the model. But that's okay. I mean, that's not their skill set, and that's not what you necessarily have to do each day. If you do, you need a data scientist or machine learning engineer. But very often I see that that's not needed. There could be months or quarters or even a year or so that goes by before you need that specific skill set again. So having that flexibility, right, to be able to opt for outsourcing to scale quickly, but also ramp down when you don't need it, it helps a lot, especially with budgeting. If you're a department head and you're like, okay, we have 2 AI projects this quarter. I have $100,000 for one project, $100,000 for the other project. That $100,000 is going to burn like this if you're thinking of hiring, onboarding, and then having somebody internally, execute that project. Whereas if you were to do a proof of concept, $200,000 can probably get you 4 proof of concepts if you partner with somebody like Quest or somebody else, right?
Right.
So it's just the ability to quickly scale up and down and test out. And I can't stress this enough with AI projects. I'm very conservative. We always do proof of concepts first because it's all experimentation. You don't know until you actually start working if it's going to be successful. Do we have the right data? Do we have enough data? Do we have, sophisticated enough models? Will the processing of the data cost too much and not make it, feasible? We ran into this last year with a company that wanted to train custom language models. the bill to retrain a model was like $20,000. So every single time they retrain the model on their data, you're picking up just for that $20,000. And it's the training, the infrastructure. There's a lot of things that go into that cost, labor, but still until we did the proof of concept, they didn't really think about that. So in the end, it worked out for them, but those considerations are reasons why you want to look at, the flexibility. Start small, start maybe outsourcing a proof of concept, and then make a decision. Okay, now do we go and hire a bunch of people to fill this role?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Let's get into the next one. So strategic value, evaluating long-term impacts.
Yeah. So I would say many of our clients will fall into this bucket, right? And the way that I look at it is strategic value of AI. There's going to be, you have to look at a project or your company and say, are we an AI first company or product or project, or is this kind of like, AI as a supporting cast? Is it just part of the project to make it better or to enhance it? Okay, why do you want to look at it like that? Well, strategically, if you're a AI first company, ultimately you need to own your IP. And with that, the resources that creates the IP needs to be as close as possible. So obviously you can have joint ventures and partnerships, but you probably want to hire at some point, or get those people locked in with your company so that your IP is protected. But if you're not an AI first company, there's no real reason for you to lock in those resources, right? Because if you're not going to create intellectual property or some competitive advantage using AI, to me it's like having a landscaper. I'm not good at gardening. I enjoy it, but I don't have time, and I'm not great at it. So I get an expert to come and do it. And to me, that hourly rate that I pay them is worth my time doing something else, right? And that's kind of how I look at it. If you're not an AI first company, that's not your expertise. That's okay. Your value really lies where you create value for your business. So if you're in e-commerce, your focus should be on that. If you're, in pencil manufacturers, your focus should be on that. If you're in golf ball printing, that's what your job should be. So that is kind of how I look at it. So the first decision point there is, for strategic value is, are we AI first? If we remove the AI, do we still have a company? If the answer is yes, you're not AI first. Or the same with the project. If I can remove AI from the project and I still have something, you're not the AI first project. So that's a good decision point to start with. And like I said, I think almost all our clients fall in that bucket.
All right. And our last point for the day, resource sharing. So partnering for complementary strengths.
Yes. So this, again, most of our clients have that need to some degree. A lot of them say, you know what? We have the staff. We don't need you to fill the project manager role, the DevOps or machine learning, or ML ops is what they call it. We have all of those roles covered. But what we don't have is data scientist. We just need that one role. So very often what we'll do is we'll put somebody with that project and they're just executing along as if they're working for the company, working on that project. And it's a good way, to kind of do resource sharing in that sense where you bring in who you need and what you need. We've done this with labeling. If you think about a company that's creating a project around AI and they have to label a bunch of data, they don't need full-time people to label their data, So we'll partner with somebody like Superb AI or another company that can bring in label resources and then go ahead and execute the project. And just one thing I touched on earlier about the security clearance. We worked with Superb AI a couple of years ago, and they actually will get you people that would label data in a SCIF. I don't know if you're familiar, Jess, what's a SCIF?
AI series.
So I might totally mispronounce it, but it's a locked up room where they have security clearance to go inside and work on top secret stuff. So, yeah, so this company will actually get you people that can go and label data with that kind of security clearance. Imagine that. So to me, that's a perfect example when you want to outsource and bring a partner in that can help you, because Are you always going to need somebody with that security clearance labeling data? Probably not. But when you need them, you need to know that, yes, they check off all the boxes and you can trust that, you have that resource available to do the job. So I think a lot of times the resource sharing concept, it's just, I always think of it as we're partnering with clients. We're not a vendor or anything, because to me, that doesn't make sense. If we're not into partnerships together, same goals, objectives, there's no mutual benefit executing. So you want to align on that. And that's why share resources where it makes sense and supplement where it doesn't.
All right.
That was our
That was
topics,
it. Yeah,
right?
that's what we've got for today.
All right. That went fast. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. And we will see you guys next week. Make sure you get your questions into us.